Have you ever felt crazy for thinking differently, laughing at the wrong time, or dreaming a little too big? Maybe that's actually your greatest sanity. Have you ever stopped to think that maybe losing your mind is exactly what you need to find your soul? What if your deepest wisdom is hidden in what the world calls madness? In this video, you'll discover why real life only begins when you embrace your inner madness. Not the kind that isolates you, but the kind that sets you free. The kind that makes you laugh at the system, take off the mask, and live with authenticity. Get ready for a deep dive into what no one talks about, yet everyone feels. Because life begins when you embrace your madness. We live in a time where seeming normal has become an obligation. You've got to perform at work, show emotional balance on social media, meditate in the morning, hit the gym in the afternoon, and still post a smiling selfie at night. But inside, a void, an existential exhaustion that not even the prettiest feed can hide anymore. The truth is, we're going through a silent spiritual crisis, suffocated by social masks, endless comparisons, and the constant feeling of not being enough. And you know what's most curious? Sometimes it's precisely when everything seems to fall apart that something inside us wakes up. Spiritual awakening rarely comes during a moment of complete peace. It erupts, it tears, it makes us uncomfortable. It arrives when the soul screams louder than the persona. And sometimes, what we call losing our minds is just the beginning of a reunion with our true essence. The goal of this video isn't to convince you of anything. It's to provoke you, to invite you to look more gently at this conscious madness that keeps knocking at your door, to show you that maybe, just maybe, the key to your freedom lies exactly in that part of you the world tried to silence. We're going to talk about the archetype of the fool, radical authenticity, conscious naivety as a strength, and liberating laughter as a spiritual path. This video is a call for you to stop performing, stop conforming, and start living. You know that moment when you have an out-of-the-box idea, and someone immediately says, "Are you crazy?" Well, maybe you are, but in the most beautiful way. Thinking outside the box, in a world that rewards conformity and repetition, is almost a spiritual act of rebellion. And that rebellion might just be your first step toward personal growth and spiritual awakening. Think about Steve Jobs, labeled eccentric, obsessive, crazy, or Elon Musk, who constantly challenges the logic of markets, technology, and even existence itself. These guys didn't just embrace their own madness, they turned it into a revolution. And it doesn't stop there. Marina Abramovic, the artist who used her body as a living artwork, was considered insane for years. Today, she's revered as a genius. These examples trigger social proof, showing us that true creativity rarely comes from comfort zones. Nassim Taleb's quote fits perfectly here. Sanity is a shared illusion. If the whole world has gone crazy trying to fit in, maybe the one who dares to be different is actually the most sane. That's the essence of conscious madness, a kind of clarity that chooses not to follow the herd. And when it comes to true spirituality, it's never tame. It challenges you, shakes your foundations, and forces you to break everything that was once right in the name of what's real. Awakening happens when you stop trying to please and start listening to your soul, even if that sounds insane to those who are still asleep. How many times have you shut down a brilliant idea just because you were afraid of looking silly? How many times did you stop yourself from trying something new because someone said, "That's not going to work"? Well then, here's a practical invitation. Keep a notebook just for your crazy ideas. Don't filter. Don't judge. Just write. You'll be surprised by how many treasures were buried beneath the fear of looking ridiculous. And here's more. Start paying attention to the environments where you feel too weird. Maybe those places just can't handle your creative power, and not the other way around. Spaces that suppress what's different. Kill the spirit. Disruptive spirituality is born when you have the boldness to dance offbeat, even if you're the only one on the floor. To laugh at yourself and realize that laughing is serious business. Sounds contradictory, right? But liberating laughter is one of the most powerful forms of healing and spiritual resistance. In a world that takes everything dead seriously, laughing is an act of courage and of deep authenticity. Charlie Chaplin understood this like no one else. Amid war, repression, and fear, he chose humor as both shield and sword. George Carlin, sharp-tongued and fearless, spoke painful truths and made people laugh out loud. They weren't just telling jokes. They were awakening consciousness with every laugh. What they were doing, even if they didn't call it that, was practicing humor as resistance. And more than that, they were operating a form of disruptive spirituality. Because yes, laughing can be a sacred act. The medieval court jester is a perfect example. He was the only one allowed to tell the king the truth, but always with a grin and a sharp tongue. What looks like foolishness is often just wisdom in disguise. And today, we're surrounded by memes, irony, quick jokes, and humor-laced critiques. It might seem trivial, but it's not. This modern laughter, even if filtered and emoji-filled, still holds the power to break patterns, disarm egos, and remind the soul it doesn't have to take everything so seriously. Viktor Frankl, a concentration camp survivor and the father of logotherapy, once said, "Humankind needs laughter as much as it needs air." And it makes sense. When we laugh at our own pain, we're not denying it. We're transcending it. Laughing at yourself is a spiritual practice. It's looking straight at your inflated ego and saying, "It's all good. I'm a beautiful mess." Want a practical exercise? Pick a moment when you failed, something truly awkward. Now, picture it as if it were a scene from a comedy show. Feel the relief, the detachment, the lightness. That's the touch of the modern fool. Laughing not to hide, but to reveal what's real. So next time someone calls you a fool, smile. You might be closer to the truth than a lot of serious people out there. And not so normal, because nowadays, being normal is like playing a part on stage. We wake up, put on the right mask for each setting, strike a pose, adjust the angle, and say what's expected. Underneath it all, a crowd acting out life, while quietly suffocating their own souls. It's the age of the social mask. And it's exhausting. LinkedIn demands success. Instagram demands beauty. TikTok demands charisma. But who are you without all that? The truth is, this pursuit of manufactured perfection comes at a steep cost. Anxiety, burnout, self-sabotage, and a silent inner abyss. We try so hard to appear that we forget to be. In this world, those who dare to be real are seen as strange. Those who show their shadow side as crazy. But as Carl Jung said, being normal is the ideal of those who have no imagination. The problem is, this so-called normality is sold to us as an ideal, but it works like a prison. And when people realize this, many go into crisis. But it's not a bad crisis. It's a spiritual crisis, a breaking away from the script. At this moment, the archetype of the fool appears as a guiding light. He's the one who, even when seen as ridiculous, refuses to play the game of appearances. He stumbles, says silly things, but it's precisely that which makes him free. He's the one who lives with a naked heart, not with an ego clad in armor. Here's a practical reflection for you. When was the last time you truly showed up as yourself, unfiltered? Do you remember how it felt? Was it shame, or was it relief? This is the kind of courage that transforms, stepping off the stage, letting the costumes fall, abandoning the performance, and sitting on the ground with your soul. Authenticity, in this performative world, has become a spiritual revolution, and your madness, the part of you that doesn't fit the mold, might just be your essence trying to breathe. So take a breath. Drop the role. Turn off the filter. Real life begins where the acting ends. Live your innocence in a cynical world. Live your innocence, because being called naive has become an insult. We live in a world where those who still believe in goodness, in love, in the beauty of life, are seen as weak, unprepared, almost childish. But let me tell you something. Maybe what the world calls naivety is actually a rare spiritual strength, a strength that holds on to faith even when everything seems to fall apart. Conscious innocence isn't stupidity, it's presence, it's openness. It's the bravery to keep your heart wide open, even after it's been wounded. Remember Parzival from the Holy Grail legend? He was only able to complete the sacred journey because he held on to his purity. Or Prince Mishkin from Dostoevsky's classic, a good man in a corrupt world who saw with the eyes of the soul. These characters represent what we need to reclaim: simplicity as power, vulnerability as truth, and love as the way. The cynic hides behind armor. He mocks, distances himself, stops believing. But the innocent one, the consciously naive, allows himself to truly live. He feels, gets involved, stumbles, learns. He transforms. In the journey of personal growth, letting go of sarcasm is a giant step, because it's easy to laugh at everything. What's truly hard is to keep loving. Authentic spirituality begins when you put down the shield of whatever and say, "Yes, I still believe, even after everything." Want a real exercise for that? For just one day, try talking to people as if none of them could hurt you. Listen with interest. Speak with truth. You'll see, something magical happens. Connections deepen. The soul expands. Spiritual awakening passes through this sacred innocence. It's the choice to trust even when there are no guarantees. To smile without irony. To look someone in the eyes with total presence. So tell me, do you still allow yourself to be naive? Or have you been hiding behind a shield that doesn't protect you, just keeps others away? Are you playing the fool to feel alive, or running from a crisis, from chaos? Crisis is scary, but it also wakes us up. Many times, what we call the end is just the beginning of something that doesn't have a name yet. And that's when the fool archetype shows up, not as failure, but as a seed. The one who falls into the abyss with no map, and finds wings in the middle of the fall. The fool is the first card of the tarot. He carries almost nothing, walks smiling toward the unknown, and trusts with no guarantees. And that's why he's the wisest of all. Spiritual crises, the ones no one sees, but we feel deep in our chest, are disguised invitations, calls to let go of what no longer serves us, to die a little, and be reborn different. Movies like Fight Club, Mr. Robot, or Everything Everywhere All at Once show this perfectly. Characters labeled as crazy dive deep into breakdowns and find clarity on the other side. They go through chaos and come out more real. Clarice Lispector once wrote, "You have to lose your mind to find your soul. And if you stop and think, it's not an exaggeration. It's almost a map." What feels like disorientation is sometimes just a new center of gravity forming within you, a new identity being born, more aligned, more free, more whole. Want to feel this for yourself? Next time you're in crisis, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What part of me is trying to be born right now?" That question changes everything, because instead of fighting it, you start listening. That's what conscious madness is. Stepping into the vortex, laughing in the middle of the storm, and trusting that the soul knows the way, even when the mind doesn't. The modern fool is the one who's no longer afraid of seeming foolish, because he's already understood. Only those who allow themselves to fall discover how to fly. Only those who breathe feel life's pulse. So, let's breathe together, just for a moment. Inhale deeply, hold it, and exhale slowly. Maybe, in that simple act, you'll realize life doesn't demand perfection. It only asks for presence. And sometimes, what looks like madness is just you coming back to yourself. Let's recap everything we've explored here with a powerful truth. The world doesn't need more well-adjusted, silently miserable people. It needs more conscious fools, more authentic souls, more people who laugh at themselves and dare to live with their hearts wide open. So tell me, in what part of your life have you been suffocating your own madness? When was the moment you most allowed yourself to just be you, even if others judged you? Drop it in the comments. Share your story, because your vulnerability might be the spark that ignites another soul's awakening. Remember, life begins when you embrace your madness, because that's where your truth lives. If these words touched you, I invite you to take the next step on your journey of self-discovery. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so we can keep walking this path of spiritual growth together. Leave a comment sharing your experiences with conscious breathing and how it's been a teacher in your own awakening. Let's grow together, not just in the mind, but in the heart. And if you want to dive deeper into this process, watch our video. Want to control your mind? Watch this now, which will help you understand more about how reality manifests. Peace and light.